the good news is that the Gen Z, they are more pragmatic, more realistic, because they are saying, look, okay, as long as you take care of my job satisfaction, I'm happy, yeah, and I have good bosses who really understand me, and most important, not only bosses, whereas Gen Y says that they want there's a difference. The Gen Y said, look, I'm very concerned about my boss. If I'm not having a great boss who doesn't understand me, I walk away. Whereas the Gen Z is saying, no, okay, boss come and go, but what is interesting is I want colleagues, I want people who's going to work with me, and they pull their cohort, their people from the universities, from polytechnic, people who they're the former classmates and so forth. So they stay longer for 5 years.
It's interesting that Gen Z seems to be a little bit more patient and more, I suppose.
Correct.
You know, they
more pragmatic.
Yeah, and they look into themselves and say, okay, there are certain things that I need to pass first, and then I get there.
You know, Andre, this is a question, when I release this result worldwide, and one of the questions, I always have a lot of email asking, why is this so? Now, the simple answer is, look at their parents.
Okay. So Gen Y's parents are the boomers.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know, boomer, I'm a boomer myself, and the way we let go kids, we've been giving them all the freedom, flexibility, we empower them. That's it. You do whatever you need to be done.
Yeah.
Whereas the Gen Z parents are the Gen X. They are more, they're very closely, they're very pragmatic. They are more realistic in the outlook, and even to the extent of job search, if you look at the results, the job search, Gen Y, we know prefer online job boards, refer on the social media, but the Gen Z prefers recruitment, staffing, and recommendation from their parents. So they are so closely linked to their parents.
Some would say that's a movement backwards.
It's odd also, given that they're so savvy with technology.
What do you say there, Andre? What can you help me to understand?
Well, the thing is, I mean, Gen Y would be very savvy, right? And they were always looking...
from a technology standpoint. But what I'm saying that it's not mutually exclusive. I'm not saying that at the expense of technology.
Sure.
What I'm saying that as an additional mode or a platform for recruitment, organizations should think about, do not forget this traditional method, because the parents are influencing them. But that's how the parents get recruited.
But I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I certainly believe it's a good thing. And also, you know, when people make references, if you come into a company based on a particular reference, that's solid, you know, that's really solid.
Exactly, yeah. So this is some of the differences.
Interesting.
And one thing is important is the leadership quality
that they look for in their
prospective employees.
Right.
So we ask the questions, we ask the Gen Y and Gen. So what do you look for? The similarities that both require leaders who can listen, who are able to communicate, who coach and guide, mentor them. Both requires that. Gone are the days where you're talking about top-down, dictatorial, coercive.
Oh, yes.
Forget about that.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that.
I think you and I also would not put up with that anymore.
Well, I tolerate that for a long time.
Yes.
But I think, you know, the younger generation cannot accept that. You lose and they get disengaged very easily.
Correct.
And this is the challenge that managers have to shape. The way they manage, the way they communicate, their style of management has to change now to prepare for this new generation coming on board.
What's interesting, though, if we're talking about leadership qualities in the different generations, here Gen Y, 75% of them want respect, someone who respects values and appreciates employees. Gen Z, though, only 15% find that to be a requirement, that their boss respects values and appreciates employees. So it's almost as if the Gen Z don't need so many attaboys, well done child, kind of.
That's interesting. You know, one of the...
They're more assured.
Well, I agree with you. No, but interesting how what you're saying is that based on the research, you know, we don't
go into the whys and why they're like that.
But what we were asking, the top three consideration, which is the communication and mentoring. Now, but it's interesting. So because it's a choice, they select. So to them, you know, bosses may say they value you and all that. They want to see the behavior. You need to demonstrate them. To them, they look at university. See, now, first of all, the Gen Z, although they have not been working, they have been through internship.
Okay, so they are exposed to the work environment already.
Not all. There's another issue that which come into the budget about the enhanced internship. It's very relevant because some of them who have gone through internship have a better perspective of what are the workplace challenges, and they look at the bosses in the internship that they've gone through, the organization, their perspective, and these are their response is based on those experience, which are not pleasant. Some of them, very unfortunate. And the internship, what's happening out there for the polytechnic and the universities, they need to relook. I think with this current initiative, the Skills Future, what the government is putting forward in terms of the budget for on Monday by TPN Tharman, I think this is very, very relevant and very timely for this group of young workforce that we can see in future.
We're going to go more detail into that in just a bit. We're speaking with Professor Bawany, who is CEO and C-suite executive coach at CEE Global, and he's also been talking about the research that he's been doing with regard to Gen Z and Gen Y, how to lead and engage them effectively, the differences between them. Are they really as far apart as we think that they are? Some instances, yes, some instances, no. You'll be surprised how similar they are. More with Professor Bawany in just a bit. Stay with us on 938 Live. Thanks for staying with us on 938 Live as we're on the job on Viewpoints today. We've been chatting with CEO and C-suite executive coach from CEE Global, Professor Sattar Bawany. His research has led us to see how different Gen Y and Gen Z are with regard to how they think about work and what they want out of work. Are they loyal? What kind of qualities they want in their bosses? How can an organization attract them? The organization culture, for example. So we're seeing some interesting things. Professor Bawany earlier told us about how for Gen Z, they prefer people who are collaborative, bosses who are collaborative, who will mentor them.
Right.
Whereas Gen Y would want more work-life balance, as an example.
Well, I think in terms of workplace preferences, I think both requires work-life balance, but Gen Z require more flexi work arrangement.
Okay.
In other words, telecommuting, working from home, and so forth. Now, the other thing about you mentioned about coaching and mentoring, both requires that. Actually, 85% of Gen Y say that's important. 95% of Gen Z say that is
paramount.
It's the most important thing. Plus, listening and ability to empathize and understand my situation.
It's all very much communication, isn't it, that they're looking for?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they want it both ways. They want to communicate with you, and they want you to communicate with them as well.
And this, Andre brought a good point. It comes to what can we do as organization, as managers. Two things. One, I think we need to understand them, their preferences, their value system, and how they prefer to communicate, and we need to reach out and communicate their way or their style. Or I speak your language, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. Number two, we need to adjust ours as leaders. We need to adjust our management style. Be flexible, because the research shows that 71% of Gen Y said we want that. We want people to have different style, more engaging, more coaching, more understanding, inspiring. And
people who are more open-minded.
Exactly. So that's important.
So the big stick is not going to work anymore.
Well, but I must qualify here. But there are times, I must say this. There are times, although maybe I would say about maybe 5% of the time, you still need to exercise those styles if the situation warrants it.
Yes.
In a crisis situation, in the discipline and so forth, performance review.
It can't just be anarchy all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that you don't do it.
Sure.
We need to use different styles. It's like playing golf. You need to have a repertoire styles where you pick up the golf club at the right...
Different sticks.
Exactly.
Different strokes for different folks,
Exactly. So you need to adapt your style to the situation.
Interesting.
So are you seeing a gap, though, with the research out now, and you seeing the differences between how Gen Z wishes to be handled, how Gen Y wishes to be handled, that organizations are not or are doing it, handling their different workers differently?
I think let's talk about Gen Y, because organizations have not seen Gen Z except those who are having internships,
right?
Interns. So I think generally organizations are making effort. I think this is my experience in two ways. One is to coach through my consulting engagement. Second, through conferences that I speak through as a panelist, and I always ask this question. And I think organization, HR practitioner, business leader acknowledge that. we need to do something. Otherwise, we're going to lose them. We're going to doing it. So they acknowledge number one.
So they do realize that there are differences.
There's an awareness.
And it's,
There's a very high sense of self-awareness, and they're doing something about it because you do see change in HR policy about recruitment, about sabbatical, about more flexible arrangement, about lifelong learning. So organization knows Gen Y, they are concerned about career development. So what can we do to provide that platform, the opportunity to get them to be where the best they can be?
Fulfill their potential.
And they're doing that. So let me just say this organization, as I see it, many in Singapore are doing it. They are on the right path. But again, most of these are big MNCs and all that, but we don't see this much of SME.
Yeah.
Their priority is, okay, look, hey,
different, right?
I need to get
very bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of them told me in my dialogue with a lot of CEOs for SME, we have other much more pressing matters.
Correct.
Yeah, so whereas Gen Z, I think we are very fortunate with the new budget 2015. A lot of measures are really supporting, aligning them. For example, the enhanced internship, which is fantastic because all institute higher learning is going to have an opportunity to be able to put in place a more extended internship. Previously, in a polytechnic or university, selected courses would have that opportunity, that program in place. So that's one. I think the other thing more important for Gen Z is the Skills Future Earn and Learn program. Which is paid on-the-job training for fresh polytechnic graduate and IT graduate at companies where they can then learn and get paid and develop to an area that, or develop the mastery skills in the area that they want, and in their passion. They choose what they want to do.
And it's at a time where they already roughly would know where they're comfortable and where they want to
what they're passionate
pursue.
about and where they want to do.
And
they want to
of this in universities and polytechnics, they have this career development assessment.
That's correct.
They already done that, and that will help them now. Okay, now I know this. So what do I go? And I think this budget again, DPM Tharman I think it's fantastic. I love the way he presented. He talked about the cluster. The high growth cluster.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we need to know the areas and what are some of these industry, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and so forth. And then this gives opportunity for this Gen Z prospective employee. Hey, okay, these are of course, the only thing, these are the opportunities are there, but are they aligned to my own interests?
That's right. There may be growth sectors, but,
it may not be aligned.
That's
so
right.
then we must not forget that, Then what are you going to do with these people? They say, I don't like aerospace, I don't like FMC, I don't. So
they shouldn't be picking up something for the sake
I want
of
to do art, I want to be a musician, I want to do this. So how do we support them?
Correct.
That's where the skills credit the
scheme comes
in. But you have to be. But right now, if you look at it as it is right now, the scheme caters for programs which are supported by the government, WDA, and so forth. Now, my concern is you must allow flexibility to organizations, to companies who can then work with these employees to use those credit on programs which may not necessarily be supported by the government.
That's correct.
So you need to give them the flexibility. But otherwise, it comes back to square one. Look at all the hosts of WDA program, and you don't have a high take-up.
We've already started to hear some doubts with regard to, say, the Skills Future Earn and Learn program. Some employers are worried they won't be able to retain the trained worker. So they've pumped in this money, allowed you to, but they're done. 16, 18 months, they've finished learning their skills, and
off they go.
So I think there's a lot of debate. I mean, a lot of dialogue needs to be happen. Continue to happen between WDA and the various government agencies and corporations. We need to understand better because right now it's still not clearly, articulated in terms of the details.
Correct.
So, but the dialogue has to come and to reinvent. The scheme should be continuously reinvent to make it more relevant.
But on the whole, it's optimistic. People in your industry with regard to budget 2015?
I think since the budget statement, I got a lot of calls. I have emails of people I've spoken to, and I was in Kuala Lumpur yesterday and talking to some of the clients there, and they were saying that, look, they were saying that, they wish the government have something like this in Singapore. I mean, in Malaysia, sorry. So we are making a lot of, it's very positive. But as I said, please, and I'm appealing to WDA and to MOM and many other government agencies, be mindful of the needs of the industry, have a continued dialogue, understand, make it relevant. So don't be so stringent and stuff like that. You will defeat the purpose.
I think one of the worries is productivity, isn't it? With all of this that's been set in place, is productivity going to move up? We've seen over the years that productivity has not really moved very much.
And it seems in Budget 2015, it's a lot of innovation talk, more so than productivity.
my view, because I'm a guest facilitator, I'm a facilitator with the Singapore National Employees Federation, the Productivity Innovation Seminar for CEOs and business leader on ongoing for the last 3 years. And I think my view, there has been a lot of improvement. People appreciate the PIC, the Innovation Fund, a lot of funding the government has made. I think people appreciate it.
Although that's going to end,
correct,
PIC,
no, the PIC bonus, I think, but the PIC is
that's
for
right,
next
the
2
bonus,
years.
that's correct.
But I think to answer a question about whether is it helpful from an innovation standpoint, it's a journey. It will take a long time. You're not going to change things overnight. But there's a lot of progress made. But what is required is the SME. That's where you see the big boys, the MNCs. They're making a lot of progress. The big, large manufacturing. So we need to look specifically for the SME. And I think this budget has made provision. And I think investment is being made, and DPM has made very clear we are looking at how SME. And I'm very confident, not just cautiously optimistic. I'm very confident that with the right implementation and looking at the right working with the partners in the industry, this can happen.
Sounds good to us. Professor Sattar Bawany is CEO and C-Suite Executive Coach at CEE Global. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
On 938 Live.
938 Live. Be informed.